I'm going to take you back, about 12 years ago to the year 2011. At the time, I was a single man, freshly broken up, in fact, from a fairly serious, committed relationship that I knew I had no business being in. And I was leading a Bible study for a church. That is where I met the woman that would become my wife. If you've ever gone to a reading and felt bored, TRBM is the show for you. TRBM is for writers what time-lapse was for painters. Guitar solos and spotlights were for bands. What chainsaws and ice blocks were for sculptors. What does TRBM stand for? Totally real bookmaking. Telling righteous ballads, man? Toast, ravioli, bologna, and manicotti. The reluctant book mess? You decide. She was in her first relationship of any note at the time and had just broken up too. And so she went on an adventure. She got in her car. She booked a breakfast in bed in Moab, Utah. And she just went. She'd never done anything like that before. While she was there, she sent back some text messages, and I thought at the time that those text messages were coming specifically to me. You see, I'd noticed her several years before this time, but I always thought that she was out of my league. I'm not the most handsome guy. I have always been fairly well muscled. I guess that's genetics, but that wasn't her type. And she'd been really vocal at different times about liking hairy men that had, kind of like that sort of like bear kind of quality to them. Well, sort of round, big dudes. I was not that way. And so for many, many reasons, I thought that I was not her type and that she was out of my league. But when she sent those text messages, I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's interested in me. And so I was responding to those text messages. And we would go back and forth. She sent a picture of herself in Moab with the beautiful arches behind her. And I would later learn that while she was there, she got lost on a hike. It was dry. It was hot. It was the summertime. She had no water with her. She ran into a jogger on the trail who was also lost. They couldn't find the way back. And apparently, this guy had been running for so long and trying to find the path that his nipples had chafed. So he'd taken his shirt off and he was bleeding from the nipples when he met her. And they were both starting to panic. I know, you're thinking, bleeding from the nipples. Until you breastfeed, I suppose most people never even think of those words in such close proximity. She was lost. She didn't know where to go. And she started to fear the worst. And I'm not telling you this story to tell you about how we eventually got together and how soon it was after that because of my misconception. She wasn't just texting me. She was texting the entire group of people who were part of that Bible study. And I misread the signs. So I just started to really fall for her. If I had known what was going on, I would not have been so bold or so brave to tell her just after Christmas that I had fallen madly in love with her. And she was really surprised. And she said, "I've never thought of you that way." And I don't honestly even know. Maybe it was desperation that got me the opportunity. But yeah, we've been happily married now for nearly 12 years, and I am really grateful for that misconception. But I'm telling you this whole story. Like I said, I wasn't telling you that story for that, but I was telling you this story because of the lostness. You see, I've been talking to you a lot about doing the program to sell my ebooks with some good success. If you hear the floor creaking, I'm kind of wandering around as I'm narrating this story. Anyways, I live in an old house, you know that. And I thought I would just be as raw as possible with you today because I thought I don't want to make a podcast for Monday. I'm not in the mood. I have some that I can edit, but it takes so much of my mental space to edit an interview that I couldn't bring myself to do it. There's a lot of other things going on in my life as well. If you've been listening, you know that. But yeah, I thought, what I can do is bring you the rawest of the raw. What is happening to me right now? It won't be edited. All of these asides will be in there. And I hope that's okay, because I hope that it will meet you when you need it, or maybe you'll put a star next to it for a time when you're like, hey, I think I remember an episode about being lost and frustrated and confused as hell, not knowing what to do and kind of feeling a little bit like giving up in some ways. Now, I don't need you to send me an email telling me not to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm just feeling lost and frustrated. And yeah, I can picture Ashley being out in Moab with no water and a bleeding nippled jogger, not knowing if she'll be able to find her car, and just starting to have the vaguest hints of real danger. And that's a little bit how I feel. She did eventually find her way out and got back to the bed and breakfast where she was staying and had huevos rancheros for breakfast the next morning. And it's probably the only time up until she married me that she'd eaten any form of bean and enjoyed it. So that was a big deal. Plus the eggs over easy. Not really her cup of tea, but I guess when you are on an adventure, you'll try things that you usually wouldn't try. And maybe that's part of this. Maybe that's part of what I'm connecting to as well, is when you're doing something unfamiliar and you're feeling lost, it is a prime moment to do things you wouldn't normally do, try things you wouldn't normally try, get outside of your typical, format for life, your process, I don't know. But yeah, things are not going well in sales land at the moment. I had reached profitability just a week ago. My ads were profitable. In fact, I was over profitability. I was recouping extra money. I was earning money on my ad spend, which was a really cool feeling. I kept up that way for about 5 days and then nothing. Like getting out there, looking at the beautiful arches, thinking this is majestic, this is amazing. Then turning around and realizing, how did I get so far off of the beaten path, and how do I find my way back? I think you'll find yourself there in your writing career at some point if you haven't already. And I would encourage you, don't lay down and die. Don't get a sunburn. If your nipples are bleeding, find healthcare. Yeah, anyways, I think that's about all I've got for you for this Monday. Today's Friday when I'm talking to you, but I'm going to go ahead and just pop this into the machine, put a little music to it, intro, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And I'll catch you with an interview on Wednesday. And hopefully by then I found my way back. But just like you can commit to me and I can commit to you, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not quitting. I'm not laying down and dying. It doesn't make the lostness any more comfortable. And I guess the truth is that some people do actually get lost, and though they never give up and they never stop trying to find their way, sometimes they just can't make it. I think that's true. I hope that's not true for me. I don't think it's true for you. I don't think it's true for us. If you're listening to this podcast, I think you've got some gumption. So just keep going, keep striving, keep looking for the way. Don't be afraid to spend money, to knock on doors, to try new things, to get uncomfortable. Keep moving forward. We'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to TRBM. The theme music was provided by the ever-talented Christopher Talon. And hey, if you liked what you heard, share this show with other readers, because what's the point of telling stories if nobody's listening?